I want to remind you of the book reading and video requirements coming up. It's kind of sneaking up on you, so be aware of those. All right. First of all, the Perpetual Pursuit is due end of this month. Miracle of the Scarlet Thread due end of November. And then you have a choice between reading a book, Supernatural Finances by Kevin Zadai. Let me see if I can scroll it up. Kevin Zadai, or watching two videos that are in here and writing a paper. Okay, 1,000-word paper. So that's a choice for you. The next one that is due end of January. So you'll see kind of almost end of every month until February, something is due. Okay, you have a choice between Kevin Zadai again, Praying from the Heavenly Realm, or The Agenda of Angels. All right, those are you can watch it or listen to it for free under the audio, or you can purchase the hard copy. Then you have a reading/video choice due end of February. You can watch the video by Dr. Winry Conrad, or you can read the book Understanding Your Inheritance. All right. So those are the ones they're going to come up, and you have to kind of get to them while you are doing your other assignments. So it would be good for you to get a head start on those. All right. Any questions?
And that
Yeah.
Weimer book, the Weimer book.
Weiner, Bob Weiner. Thank you
Oh
for
my gosh.
reminding me.
That
Bob.
that I don't know if anybody started it, but I've started like trying to do a page or two a day because it's really intense. There's a lot of work in it.
I love Bob Weiner's book. I have it here on my right-hand side. Our church actually started doing Bob Weiner's book as a Bible study every Tuesday. So they're working through it. So Bob Weiner, it's part of your asynchronous work, which basically just it's work outside the classroom that you and I do. So all it is here's the book. You can order it on Amazon. I think it's like $20 or $25. You can order it through CMM Theology. It's $27. It's something. It's about the same price. Okay,
Mhm.
and you purchase it. If you do it through CMM Theology, you go into their website and place your money order there. Let me know so I can let them know to look out for that money. So there's no delay. And obviously, if you order on Amazon, that's people have that option too. Okay. That book is due April 29th, 2026. So it's still a long ways away, but it's good for you to maybe do a page a day or maybe 2 pages a day. All right. Because we are going to have one classroom on April 29th, or a class where I'm going to sit with my book, you're going to sit with yours, and we're going to go through some answers. And you will just have a form to complete, which is this form, as an acknowledgement that you have completed the book to the best of your ability. Okay, because we are not going to ask anyone to mail their books in. It's theirs, but we do want to just make sure that they have been answered to the best of their ability. Okay, all right. And I know some of you are working on your practicums or are going to complete the short form and the long form practicums, just to let us know ministry work you've done in the past, ministry work you are doing at the moment. Okay. And get going with that. But I do think many of
Want that
you,
form sent
yes,
back to
say it
I
again.
got a
that form is to be sent back to you under the submission, the classwork submission area.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah. Go
that
ahead.
big paper that's 18 to 20 pages.
The final paper,
Yes.
yes.
That's due April, correct?
So let's go in there because I might not even remember the exact date, so I don't want to quote you wrong. What we will, by the way, start doing with that paper is we will start working on it by December. And I will share the options or what you can do. The information is under here. So let's scroll down. Final paper. Okay. Um, Did I post this? Yeah, it's there. It is a paper on the book of Revelation. So we will start on the book of Revelation. And as the Lord shares things with you during classes, make your notes. What do you want to talk about? And you don't have to only quote from Revelation. The Lord is showing us all things from other passages in the Bible, etc., etc. So I will get to that and share some more information. But yes, that is due, drum roll. Okay, so the proposal, February 26th, rough draft, April 2nd, final paper, April 30th. So that is the day after Bob Weiner. So you kind of can see how things could escalate if you kind of leave everything for last minute. So I would definitely not advise you to do that. Okay. But I think you all will be fine. Lanisha,
Thank you. Thank you.
anything else I can share?
Mm-mm.
I
Have they
just
decided when the graduation will be in May?
it still looks like it's the last weekend in May.
Okay.
But it's still to be decided, okay?
Okay.
And I just remembered that I have not shared this with the earlier class this today. So I'm going to make a note for myself to also share the same information with them. So thank you for asking that. Okay, let's turn to Genesis 37. Let me call this up and then I'm going to ask. Because I'm there we go. Who is familiar, or let me rather swap it around. Who is not familiar with Joseph and his dreams? I mean, some of us know some things about it, but you know that Joseph had these dreams on it. Because the reason I'm asking you is I will be skipping some verses. I won't be reading absolutely all the verses, and I wouldn't want to skip something that I needed to go over. Okay, because we will have some passages that I do need to cover. So this is where we are at. We went all the way from Genesis, from Sarah's death to Jacob, Esau, the Dinah or Dinah incident. Rachel dies, and then we are introduced to the 12 sons. Isaac dies, and then the incident or the meeting that Jacob had with Esau, and then we are told his descendants who they are. So we will pick up from Joseph. So when we look at the chart here, it's just a kind of like a different one than the one I gave you last week because I like pictures. So if I can visualize it once again, it's going to help me a lot. So here we have the 4 women. As we know, Rachel, the 2 sisters, and Leah are married to Jacob, and Zilpah and Bilhah are the concubines or the slave women of or servants is really the right word, of these women who also have children by Jacob. And the story now takes us through to Joseph. Now we know Joseph and Benjamin are the only 2 sons born to Rachel. And we will soon see that Rachel died during childbirth when she had Benjamin. Okay, so this is the story that is unfolding here in the next. We will see that Joseph is a typical principal. He is a type of, and so a type of what? But he is a type of someone. And we're going to look at some key words and key things that happen to allude to what that answer is. So Joseph is 17 years old. I don't know why I said 17 verse 1. It was 37 verse 1. Okay. Joseph was at that point a very, I don't know, I'm not going to call him spoiled, but he was definitely as the brothers saw him as this pain, because he would run to the mothers and will tattletale on him. He will be a snitch. And the brothers did not appreciate that. He was telling on his older brothers all the stuff they got up to for the day. And they started to be jealous over him, because on top of that, we have Jacob making this beautiful garment of many colors. I don't know why I'm making these typos. It's a coat of many colors. All right. And we see how this deepens or changes the brother's attitude even further toward Joseph. So we are going to pick it up from verse 2. So Genesis 37, verse 2. Actually, can I ask somebody to read for me from verse 2 to verse 11? Verse 2 to 11. And I'm going to ask a lot of you, or probably all of you, to read for me.
I'll start off.
Thank you so much.
Okay. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, he was 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. The boy was with the sons of Bela, Selva, however you pronounce it, his father's wives, and Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a multicolored tunic. His brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than all of his brothers, so they hated him and could not speak to him on friendly terms. Now Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers, and they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen, these dreams which I have dreamed. We were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf got up and stood up. Hold on, I can't see. Hold on. Got up and stood upright and remained standing. And behold, your sheaf stood all around my sheaf and bowed down." His brother said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Are you really going to rule and govern us as your subjects?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. But Joseph dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers. He said, "See here, I have again dreamed a dream, and lo, 11 stars and the sun and the moon bowed down to me." He told it to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father rebuked him and said to him, "This dream that you have dreamed, shall I, your mother, and your brothers actually come to bow down to the ground before you?" Joseph's brothers were envious and jealous of him, but his father kept the words in mind.
Amen. So, verse 12, then his brothers went to feed the father's flock at Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. Verse 14, then he said to them, please go and see if it's well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me. So he sent him out of the valley, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field. And the man asked him, what are you seeking? So he said, I'm seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks. And the man said, they have departed from here, and I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them. Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near, they conspired against him to kill him. And they said to one another, look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, now let us kill him and cast him into the pit. And we shall say that some of the wild beasts devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dream. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of the hands and said, let us not kill him, And Reuben said to them, Shed no blood, but cast him into the pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him. And I'm going to pause there for a moment, and that is exactly what they did, right? So he was in this pit, and some traders came by, and he was sold off, verse 28, to some Ishmaelites sold him off to the Midianites, and he was taken to Egypt. All right. So what we know the story, they took his coat, they stripped off all his clothes, they took his coat, smeared it in blood, and obviously presented this to Jacob, and Jacob was absolutely devastated. Okay. So let's talk about the coat for a moment. And remember, I said to you that Joseph is a type of. I want us to turn to Beatrice. If you can read Psalm 104, verse 1 to 2, Shante, Isaiah 61:10, Lanisha, Revelation 4, 1 to 4.
And do you have a preference in the version?
Not at all.
Psalms 104.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking that, sometimes I think I'm sharing and something's clicking wrong. Okay. So Psalm 104, verse 1 and 2, Isaiah 61:10, Revelation 4, 1 to 4. You can go ahead when you're ready.
And I read, Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who covers thyself with light, as with a garment, who stretched out the heavens like a curtain.
Okay. So here we see the word garment, and in these translations, they mean a tunic or a cover for you. So when we see certain words, and we've discussed before that we are going to follow certain patterns regarding certain garments. Okay, we know that King David, metaphorically wore different garments, but here we see a garment presented where the Lord is clothed. He has a garment. In the Genesis, all the way in the beginning, we saw that Adam and Eve were naked. All right, they weren't covered with any garments. And scholars believe, and I think that is so beautiful, that they saw each other and they weren't ashamed. Obviously, they didn't have the same sinful nature at that time. But scholars believe that this could be that 104 that you read is part of what they were wearing. It was like they were wearing the light of Christ on them. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting thought. It could be. I'm not saying it is, but it could be. So, but I want to just picture in our minds the little pattern that's forming with garments here. Okay. So Isaiah 61:10.
Yes, Isaiah 61, verse 10. I delight greatly in the Lord. My soul rejoices in my God, for he has clothed me with garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom adorns his head like a priest, and the bride adorns herself with her jewels.
Okay. Thank you. Revelation.
After this, I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice which I had heard, like the sound. Oh, it's 1 through 4. Okay. The first voice which I had heard, like the sound of a trumpet, speaking with me, said, Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after these things. At once I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne stood in heaven, with one seated on the throne. And he who sat there appeared like a jasper stone and a sardius. Is that how you say that? Sardius stone. And encircling the throne, there was a rainbow that looked like emerald. 24 thrones surrounded the throne, and seated on these thrones were 24 elders dressed in white clothing with crowns of gold on their heads.
Okay. So we are taken back to Genesis 37, where we see Joseph is given or gifted a very unusual garment. And if you look at the meaning of that garment or coat, it really specifically refers to it being a long-sleeved garment. And it mentions that it was a tunic of many colors. Now, first of all, I know that way back when you add color to anything, it is a costly, pricely item. All right. So he is given this garment, and it symbolizes what I find from it. It symbolizes the majesty of God. He has given this garment to walk, and like we are clothed with the Lord, like a garment of praise or a garment of beauty, of glory, and salvation, and His character, and His just love on our lives. That was probably not a very good sentence, but here we see Joseph wearing this garment. And it's like it's foreshadowing us wearing the garment of salvation. And we wear it, and we see that the throne room of God in Revelation 4 is as multi-colors. It's a rainbow. Then Ezekiel says, oh, it's this color. I think Ezekiel said it was amber. Then Isaiah says it's emerald, or I might be swapping the two around. And here we see the throne room of God, and it's depicting all these beautiful colors. And I cannot wait, by the way, to talk about those colors in the book of Revelation. All right, and we will get to that. So what we see with Joseph is he is given this, and he's wearing it, and it's kind of like he is. If I look at it from a physical point of view, or just a natural point of view, he's wearing this garment like displaying, or like a peacock, just kind of just showing everyone how cool this garment is, how great this garment is. But the significance of this garment is that this is part of why he ended up where he ended up. To add fire to the fuel, he has these dreams. He says, man, you are going to bow to me, right? Now, did he say it in the way that I just said it? No, probably not. But it wasn't received well by his family at all. So they, think of it, they're all older. Here's the 17-year-old saying, you guys are going to bow in front of me. So we see Joseph's character. Should he have shared the dreams? If I think of it, I'll go, no, you should have just kept quiet, keep this to yourself. But if he hadn't shared the dream, he wouldn't have ended up where he ended up. If he hadn't gotten this garment, he wouldn't have ended up where he did. So we see how God's timing in all of this. All these things happened to Joseph. Did he ask for the garment? No, he didn't. No, well, nowhere in the Bible do we see or find evidence of that. And his brothers went from a place of jealousy, and it moved to a place of envy. When we say we are jealous over something, it's like, you know what? It doesn't mean that you want that person harm. But here is how the envy developed. They wanted to kill him. That's not just jealousy. That is deep-rooted envy that wishes harm to another person. So it roots within their soul. They absolutely hate him. And they will do anything possible to get rid of this annoyance in their lives. So this is all part of God's plan. Joseph had a calling on his life. And things were, in a sense, set up in his life so that, and he recognizes that toward the end of Genesis, so that he can become the Savior. And they certainly didn't see him that way in the beginning, right? They certainly saw him as the total annoyance of their lives. But God had a plan. What do? They plan to kill him. They decided that, you know what, that we are going to rid ourselves. We'll make up a plan. We will tell our father this and this happened. And this moment where he goes to Egypt was the beginning of a new season that Genesis 15 spoke about. Genesis 15, where God said to Abraham, your descendants will be, let me read it. It's on the next screen, but I want to read it for a moment. You don't have to turn there. Genesis 15:13. Then God said to Abraham, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. So at that point, the affliction wasn't there yet. Everything was going well, but it was on its way. All right. This is just a beautiful picture of that. Okay. Genesis 38. Judah and Tamar. I put there stranger than strange because this is really strange. What happened? Again, God had a plan in this. And let me show you. Verse 2, and Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite. He married her and went into her. Verse 3, so she conceived and bore him a son named She conceived again and bore a son named Onan. And she conceived again and bore a son named Shelah. He was at Chezib when she bore him. Verse 6, then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and marry her, raise her up as an heir to your brother. But Onan knew that the heir would not be his, and it came to pass when he went into his brother's wife that he emitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. So what is this about? This is about the and I've got a screen there for you from the Blue Letter Bible called the Levirate marriage. All right. So basically, it is a tradition. At this stage, we don't have the Mosaic law yet, but this was the traditions from the fathers passed on through the culture, through their belief that when your son dies, the wife goes to the brother because your lineage needs to be continued through the wife. All right. And then the firstborn, verse 6, the firstborn she bears shall succeed the name of his dead brother, and that his name may not be blotted out of Israel. So this was for survival of the genes, right? But here's the thing, and of course, if the brother doesn't want to do that, there are some conditions to that as well. I've got it on the screen for you, but for now, I'm not going to mention what they are. So Judah, verse 10, very key here, verse 10, chapter 38, verse 10. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. So here we have Judah, his son dies, now his next son Onan dies, and it just seems very cruel. Verse 11, then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah, or Shelah, is grown. For he said, let he also die like their brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Verse 12. Now in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and he went up to the shear bearers in Timnah, and with his friend. Verse 13. And he was told, Tamar saying, look, and it was told Tamar, saying, "Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she took off her widow's garment, covered herself in a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place which is on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as wife. So, of course, we know that that was going to be the custom. She should have married now the third brother to continue the lineage, right? Verse 15. Then Judah saw her. He thought she was a harlot because she had covered her face. Then he turned to her by the way and said, "Please let me come into you." How romantic. I'm sorry. Just have to add. It's just, yeah, they've got a very weird way of explaining it. I have to say, it's very different. He turned to her by the way and said, "Please let me come into you," for he did not know that she was the daughter-in-law. So she said, "What will you give me that you may come into me?" And he said, "I will send a young goat from the flock." So she said, "Will you give me a pledge till you send it?" Then he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" And she said, "Your signet, which is your ring, cord, and your staff that is in your hand." Then he gave them to her and went in to her, and she conceived by him. Verse 19. So she arose and went away and laid aside her veil and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the young goat by the hand of his friend to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he did not find her. All right. Verse 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after that Judah was told, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry." So Judah said, "Bring her out, let her be burned." Verse 25. When she was brought out, she went to her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am with child." And she said, "Please determine whose these are, the signet and the cord and staff." And Judah acknowledged them and said, "She has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son." And he never knew her again. So I'm going to pause just for a second. Judah understood why Tamar was so deceptive. She knew she had to carry on the lineage, and she would do it any means possible. Verse 27, now it came to pass at the time of childbirth, or giving birth, that behold, twins were in a womb. And so it was, when she was giving birth, that the one put out his hand. The midwife took the scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, as he drew back his hand, his brother came out unexpectedly. "How is it you broke through? His breach be upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward, the brother came out also, who had scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerah. Now, in the meantime, Joseph had been taken. I'm going to pause reading there for a moment. Joseph had been taken to Egypt. We know the story. He served in Pharaoh's house, and it says that the Lord blessed him. He did everything great. He was a good steward to Pharaoh, or Potiphar. And what happened was the wife saw Joseph. We know the story. She wanted to sleep with him, and he went, "No, no, no, no." He fled from her, and she accused him of trying to violate her. So what do? Joseph is now in jail. In jail, Joseph has dreams. In jail, the cupbearer first has dreams, and he is dreaming about a vine. All right. He says, verse 10, so chapter 40, verse 10. And the vine, there were 3 branches. It was thought to it budded, it blossomed, shot out, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and will put Pharaoh's cup in your hand according to the former manner when you were his butler. Second dream is dreamt by the baker. The baker dreams of bread and cakes. Verse 16, the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, and it was also in my dream that there were 3 white baskets on my head. The uppermost basket had all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them in the basket, out of the basket in my hand. So Joseph said, this is the interpretation. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you. And that's exactly, in a nutshell, what happened. Look at the 2 dreams. Look at what happened. Now, this was, just picture this. By this time, Joseph was already 11 years in prison. Yet, all right, 11 years in prison. He gets the interpretation of these dreams. And what are these dreams about? Wine and bread, symbolizing the Lord's Supper, symbolizing Jesus' body and his blood. All right. So Joseph gets all excited because now these guys are being freed from prison. Obviously, the one guy loses his head and he says, please remember me. Please remember me. All right. But they didn't. 2 years later, in the 13th year of Joseph's imprisonment, Pharaoh goes ahead and he has a dream. And give me a moment. I'm kind of wondering if I should all right, let's move to that one. All right. He dreams about, I'm trying to kind of figure out which verses I want to give you or not. He dreams about the 7 cows and the 7 thin cows. And nobody could interpret it for him. And Joseph goes and he says, in a nutshell, a famine is about to strike. You're going to have great years for 7 years, but a famine is going to strike and everything will be devastated. And Pharaoh goes, wow, this is incredible. I need to find out more from you. I can see that God's wisdom is upon you. Verse 25, then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are, God has shown Pharaoh that what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are the 7 years. The 7 good heads are the 7 years. Then dreams are 1. And the 7 thin, ugly cows which came up from after the 7 years, with the empty heads blighted by the east winds, are the 7 years of famine. Verse 29, indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come through the land, but after the 7 years, famine will arise. So Pharaoh receives the dream. He acknowledges that that Joseph's dream is in fact absolutely worth listening to, and he heeds Joseph's warning. Verse 33, now, therefore, let Pharaoh select discerning and wise men to set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land in the seventh plentiful year, and let them gather all the food of the good years that are coming to store up grain, and under the authority of Pharaoh. Verse 36, then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, and so that they may not perish. Verse 37, so the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? Look at that. Pharaoh recognizes the Spirit of God in Joseph. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house and over all my people, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne, I will be greater than you. So, in a nutshell, verse 46, Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and throughout all the land. And that is, I'll stop reading there for a moment. And that is what Joseph did. God's wisdom and revelation, dream interpretation, set Joseph up for promotion. He was 13 years in jail, and now he's out of jail, and he's in charge of all the land. And it's a very well-known story. We all know the situation and the circumstances that Joseph had to go through to become the rescuer, the savior of Israel. So Joseph, and it is no coincidence, and I kind of skipped over this and I want to kind of go back. It is no coincidence that, when Joseph interpreted the baker and the butler's dreams, that 3 days came into play again. 3 days were mentioned. Bread and wine, 3 days. So often we see that when a certain amount or a certain number is repeated, there is a significance to it. And the mentioning of the bread and wine and the 3 days shows us how Joseph is a typical Jesus. He is a type of Jesus. Joseph spends 13 years in prison, and he gets out of prison and he's automatically promoted. Let's think about this way. Though it's 13 years, here we see Jesus is crucified. He's risen from the dead, and he's now promoted, seated at the right hand of the Father, and he goes up to heaven. And we see how very much of the same numbering and characteristics are shown in the life of Joseph when we compare it to Jesus. Now we know Joseph isn't Jesus, and was he an arrogant young person? But that is for each one to decide. Many have argued that Joseph was really this perfect child in a sense. And the others have then again argued that he was an arrogant little one to tell his brothers, you're going to be bowing down to me. So there are two sides of the discussion when it comes to Joseph. But here we receive the turning point. So Egypt becomes the Goshen of the land. All the people, the famine was in stages. In the beginning, they were just getting grain, but now the whole entire regions around Egypt was famine stricken. That always should have been the right word. And here we find countries coming to Egypt. And here we have Joseph, the second highest authority in all of Egypt. So his brothers go to Egypt because obviously they were hungry and they needed the food. They get to Joseph. Joseph recognizes them, and they obviously didn't recognize him because they thought they were dead. So here comes Joseph, and he starts questioning them. He says, like, I'm paraphrasing, tell me a little bit about yourself. And they're like, well, we were 12 brothers. Our youngest one is with our fathers. Oh, your father's alive. Yes. And, we lost one. So it's only 10 of us. So Joseph, I mean, honestly, I just really think he had a brilliant mind. He finds a way to get Benjamin there, because they found out about Benjamin, and he finds a way to get Benjamin to Egypt. And he tricks them. He first lavishes them, he gives them all they need, and he sends them on their way. And they return with Benjamin, and Joseph is just blown away. He's like, this is my brother from my mother, same mother. I mean, it's pretty unusual in biblical times, right? So they both are Rachel's kids, and he just wants to love on his family, but he has to kind of keep himself back and preserve himself, because he knew that he wanted his dad too. You see, I believe that all of this working out was to get the entire family to Egypt. So what does Joseph do? Benjamin's there, everything's great, big happy family. And he obviously tricks them by placing a cup in one of the sacks after they filled him with all the grains. He says, go to your land, be plentiful. And then he sends his servant to run after them and obviously trick them into saying, oh, the one who bears my cup is missing, my cup is missing. The one who bears it, his head's going to spin, or he's going to lose his life. And here we find Reuben interceding for Benjamin. He says, please take me. Please don't take my youngest brother. And what I missed out, and in between, the brothers came and they bow down. They bow down to Joseph, and Joseph remembered the dream. Sorry, I completely left that out. They bow down, he remembers the dream, and he knows this must be God fulfilling the dream that I had had. So, kind of long story short, it's all no, I'm going to find the right word. So the brothers are pleading with Joseph to please not kill Benjamin. They couldn't stand it anymore. And then they confess to him and they say to him, listen, our one brother's dead. You are going to kill our dad if we come back and our youngest brother is not there anymore. Please don't do this to us. And the brothers themselves thought to themselves, you know what? Maybe this is the punishment we reserve for treating Joseph so badly. So the brothers plead with Joseph, and Joseph just, he ran away a couple of times to cry by himself, and he just couldn't bear it anymore, and he reveals himself to the brothers, and they kind of like, what? Is that really you? I don't know, what trickery is this in a sense? But here is something beautiful that Joseph does with his brothers. And I want to go ahead and read chapter 45 from verse 2. Chapter 45, verse 2. He wept aloud, and the Egyptians in the house of Pharaoh heard it. Then Joseph said to his brother, I am Joseph. Joseph, is my father still alive? But his brothers couldn't answer them because they were dismayed in his presence. And Joseph said to his brother, please come near me. So they came near. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold to Egypt. Verse 5 is such a key. But now do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God has sent me to preserve life. For 2 years, the famine has been in the land, and it's still another 5 years to go. So what he does is, I'm going to stop reading, he invites them to come and stay with him. He says, I've got everything you need. This is a place of plenty. You don't have to be begging for anything. And then they said, you know what? Go and get my father. And reveal to our father that I'm still alive. And here's all the beautiful stuff that I want to give you. I just want to lavish you with so many things. So they go back to Canaan. They tell Jacob that Joseph is alive. And Jacob looks around and he sees all of these gifts and grains and food. And it's like, wow, this must be really, really true. And so the journey begins to Egypt. And that is where I'm going to ask one of you to go ahead and read for me. Let's go with anyone who wants to read. That's fine.
From where?
I'm going to just give me a moment. Verse 2, 46, verse 2. Just continue reading and
Okay.
yeah.
46 verse 2. Then God spoke to Israel in the vision of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. So he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph will put his hands on his eyes. Then then Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob, their little ones, their wives in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. So they took their livestock and their goods, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to Egypt, Jacob and all his descendants with him, his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his descendants he brought with him into Egypt. Now these were the names of the children of Israel, Jacob and his sons who went to Egypt. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. The sons of Reuben were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jasin, Zohar, and Shul, the son of a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The
Okay.
sons of
Let's pause there because I kind of just wanted to point something out. And you will, if we study the word a little bit more and find out some more information, we will see that there are different accounts as to who the sons of Perez are. Okay, so bear in mind, Genesis 46:12 says the sons of Perez are Hezron and Hamul. Okay, if somebody can go to Luke 3, verse 33. So I want to basically just explain to you how we can think that the information we receive in the Bible is not accurate, but I want to point something out. Luke 3:33. Who's got that?
I have it.
Okay.
The son of Amminadab, the son of Ram, the son of Hezron, the son of Perez, the son of Judah.
Okay. Do we see the name Ram coming in there? The name Ram does not appear in the genealogy or the breakdown of the sons of Perez. Okay, because it said Hezron and Hamil. Luke 3:33 says Ram. So I'm going to point us to another scripture for you. 1 Chronicles 2, verse 5. I'm going to just do verse 5 and then verse 9. 1 Chronicles 2, 5 and 9. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamil. Yeah, lines up with Genesis. Also the sons of Hezron who were born to him in Jerahmeel, Ram and Chilbai. Do you see now Chronicles says, oh, also there's other sons too. It's not just them. Why am I sharing this with you? You have, and let me show you, under your classroom app, there is a genealogy chart. I have kind of split it in half. It's supposed to be a genealogy chart all the way from Adam to Jesus. And the chart specifically mentions Isaac, Jacob, Judah, Perez, Hezron, and Ram. And it seems to contradict what Genesis 46 tells us. So what the point I'm trying to mention here briefly, and then we will go on, is when you see information in the word and it states a fact, always bear in mind that there could be other facts as well. It's just saying one thing. It's like, I'm going to use a very simple example that it just came to mind. If I tell you an apple, wait, where is it? Don't have an apple. If I show you a green apple and I look at it and I say, this apple is green. Am I right? Yes. But if you say to me, well, the apple is round, I'm like, yeah, it's round too, but it's green. Do you see what I mean? This is kind of the same thing that the Bible does. It gives us one aspect about something or one piece of information, and you have to go and look for other pieces of information wherever you see a name repeated. Like you can go Perez in the Blue Letter Bible, type in Perez, and all the names or all the verses where Paris is mentioned will come up. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to find it. It can be a quick search. But when you see that something doesn't seem to add up, just do a search and a name search through the Blue Letter Bible, and it's going to help you out quite a lot with not getting confused. Okay, and we see something similar than that happening in the Gospels as well. All right. Any questions, comments? Okay. Chapter 47. What am I doing with time? I'm still great. Chapter 47. Joseph went and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds and all they have possessed, have come to the land of Canaan, from the land of Canaan, and indeed are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men among his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherd, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, we have come to dwell in the land, because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them a chief herdsman over my livestock. Oh, there we go. I need somebody else to read. Verse 7 to verse 12.
I can read.
Thank you.
Then Joseph brought in his father Jacob and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Jacob, how old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. Wow. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph situated his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as the Pharaoh had commanded. Then Joseph provided his father and all his brothers, and all his brothers and all his father's household with bread according to the number in their families.
Okay. Let's move down to verse 20. So here we see Joseph, the businessman. He is helping Pharaoh devise a plan of how to enrich himself while taking care of others. And he says to me, you know what? Take a fifth of whatever is produced and keep it for yourself. Have that. And Pharaoh's like, wow, yeah, that's going to be a lot because everyone is coming to him. Verse 20, yeah, I'm going to skip. Let's go to verse 27. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. Then the time drew near that Israel must die, and he called his son Joseph and said to him, now, if I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt, But let me lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in a burial place. And he will do. And he said, I will do what you have said. And he said, swear to me. And he swore to him. Verse 48. So Jacob kind of adopts Joseph's two sons. Verse 1. Now it came to pass, on all these things that Joseph was told, indeed your father is sick, and he took him to his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, look, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed. Then Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz, the land of Canaan, and blessed me. And he said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a multitude of people, and give you this land to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. Your offspring, whom you beget after them, shall be yours. So here is what Jacob does. He adopts Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, as his own. In other words, they are grafted in to the 12 tribes of Israel. So they have same status as Joseph, as a son of Israel. So what is happening here is Joseph gets a double portion blessing as a son, because not only is he blessed as a son, his sons are now blessed as a son. So we clearly see how the favor of God is upon Joseph, and he receives the double blessing, and he receives let's go ahead and read verse 17. Then Joseph saw, so they're busy laying hands on him, that his father had laid the right hand on the head of Ephraim. This displeased him, so he took his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to his father, not so, my father. This is the one firstborn. Your right hand must be on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly this younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations. So here we see a blessing that is bestowed on Joseph's son, receiving a double portion. In the next chapter, we find Jacob declaring over all 12 his sons a very interesting blessing. And he calls them by all these very unique names. Like Reuben, he says, my might in the beginning of my strength, the excellency of your dignity, and the excellence of your power. Unstable as water, you shall not excel, because you went up to your father's bed and you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are the brothers, instruments of cruelty. Okay, I've got it on the screen. I'm going to paraphrase here. Judah, a lion's cub. Zebulun, he will dwell by the sea. Issachar, donkey. Dan, a judge. Gad, triumph. Asher, he'll be rich. Naphtali, a deer, a wild deer, deer let loose. Joseph, a fruitful bow. And Benjamin, a ravaging wolf or a wolf. So these are very unusual characteristics that Jacob speaks over his sons. And you know what? When we progress to the book of Judges, we are going to see how their characters are echoing the words of Jacob. So right now, we will put these characters to rest for now. We are not going to get into it. We will see how they are affected or effected when the judges come. All right. All right, Jacob's death and burial. Let me see if I got that screen there for you. And I've got a very interesting reading piece from the Talmud that I want to share with you. Okay, so Jacob dies. It's about 1862 BC. He is Joseph honors his dad's request. He's not buried in Egypt, but he is moved, and by permission, he asked Pharaoh for permission. Joseph and all those with him moved and placed Jacob in the cave of the patriarchs, and Machpelah, that we've discussed already. All right, and here is something absolutely beautiful. So Jacob dies, all right, and the brothers all of a sudden become petrified. They're like, you know what? We think it's because dad was still alive that Joseph kept us alive. Is he going to kill us? Is he going to harm us? What is he going to do? And here is something beautiful that Jacob just reassures his brothers with. Verse 20. So it's chapter 50, verse 20. But as for you, Joseph is speaking to his brothers, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about it as this day, to save many people alive. Now, therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones, and be comforted. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to him. Now, something that is very interesting. We know that Joseph passes away. It's about 50 years after Joseph dies, all right? Verse 22, so Joseph dwelled in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the third generation, the children of Micah, son of Manasseh. He also brought up on Joseph's knee. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. All right, so we know Jacob's gone already. He was buried in the cave, but Joseph was buried in a coffin in Egypt. Now, when we get to Exodus, and I'm going to kind of give you a little run ahead of thing. Exodus 13, verse 19. I've got it on the screen for you. Exodus 13, verse 19. It says, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had placed the children of Israel under a solemn oath, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from there. All right. So when the Israelites left Egypt, they carried Joseph's coffin. So here is something interesting that I saw under a website, and every now and again I reference to this website. Sometimes it says something kind of bit off, but there's something that I've learned in all of these studies, and I hope that you can also kind of keep that in mind. The saying that says you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So when you see something, a website that seems legit and okay, and every now and again it says something off, you don't go, this is whatever. This website receives their sources from the Talmud. So, which is the Jewish traditions that is passed on information that is passed down. It's a collection of traditions, all right? And this is what the Talmud says. Now, obviously, this is not inspired word of God, right? It says the time had come to fulfill their promise to the great leader and source of inspiration. Moses spent 3 days looking for the casket. Finally, one night of the Exodus, Moses turned to Shirah, daughter of Asher and niece of Joseph, who had been blessed with a long life, in the words of the Talmud. And now and how did Moses know where Joseph was buried? It is said that Sirach, the daughter of Asher, remained from that generation. Moses went to her and asked, "Do you know where Joseph is buried?" She replied, "The Egyptians fashioned a metal casket for him and set him in the Nile so that its water would be blessed." So the Egyptians wanted to bless the water, so they put Joseph's coffin in the Nile. All right? This is what the Talmud says. Moses took at the bank of the Nile and said, "Joseph, Joseph, the time regarding which God has promised that I'll redeem you has arrived, as well as the time of your oath that you have administered on the people of Israel. If you present yourself good, if not, we are absolved from your oath." Immediately, Joseph's coffin floated up. All right. Is it true? I don't know. All right. It's not in the Bible, but it makes for some very interesting reading of how did they find Joseph's coffin, right? Because that's like 360 years afterward, okay? Alternative, rabbi cites a tradition that Joseph was buried in the crypt of an Egyptian king. When Moses came to the burial site and made his declaration, Joseph's bones rattled, signaling to Moses whose they were. Okay, so there's two options that are giving two traditions that are passed down as to what really happened. How did Moses, a couple of 100 years later, get hold of Joseph's bones? I thought it was made for some interesting reading. All right, not in the Bible. Use it, don't use it, but I like having fun with some extra traditions on what is believed. Okay, woohoo! How are we doing? Any questions, comments, anything that the Lord showed you as I was talking, in any verse that kind of stood out for you that you wanted to share? Something I've completely skipped over and I shouldn't have?
So I was, because I can't just leave it alone right now. I was wondering like who his wife was, because I kind of missed that part somehow. And they're saying that it was Asenath,
Yeah,
and
let me go.
she was a daughter of an Egyptian priest,
Yeah.
Potipharah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting that his sons were adopted into the line to protect them from the demonic lineage.
Mm. Mm.
That's all.
I think that's a good way of seeing it, to protect him from the demonic lineage. The and we will see, probably not in this class, but how Ephraim and Manasseh conduct their business and how they grow. And Manasseh obviously became great. If you look at a map of how the tribes were divided at a later stage, you'll see the Manasseh is humongous. So, and that is the fulfillment of what Jacob said, you know. So yeah, I think if I'm speaking under correction, but if my memory serves me right, Manasseh ended up being the biggest tribe, and I'm speaking under correction. I'll probably go and research that now. Okay.
Well, then the other thing is like, what is it with the twins? And then the older and the younger and I mean, it's kind of wild that it just keeps popping up, and the younger one's the one that's blessed. And
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And that happened the same with Jacob and Esau as well. You see, in Jewish tradition or culture, it obviously, and we know it was the oldest son receives all the blessing of the firstborn, right? And here God, I call it, puts a spanner in the works. He changes things around. And he is not confided. No, I wonder if that's the right word. He is not bound to any man's tradition. If God plans for somebody to receive the bigger blessing, then he is going to plan that and he's going to do that. So he doesn't settle for, oh, this is how man's way is. All right, I understand. But the youngest receives the blessing. Any comments, thoughts, anything you want to share? Tough crowd. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and press pause for a moment.